some of you were here yesterday, so you saw these two other works. You can also see after the talk, if you want. And I will also talk about them a little bit. This is my first time in Prishtina, and thanks to Alban and Ahmet for inviting me here. And since this is the first exhibition I've been doing here, we did a selection of few works just to give an idea in general about my practice. And now we have the opportunity to tell you more about the other works which we don't have here. I have done recently. So I will just show you a couple of works, some of them large-scale public space works done in public space, some of them done in institutions. So I will just give you some examples, maybe that will give you more idea about what other kind of works I've been doing. And do you hear me, by the way? Yeah. So I will start with this piece. This is from 2012. 2012 May. I did it in Belgium. It was in Ghent. There was a show they do every 10 years. It's a big show in public space organized by the museum, Smart Museum. And I was walking around and they were showing the buildings, what spaces they have. And meanwhile I was walking around, I discovered this little building. It's actually the largest building in the town, which was very significant to me, and I saw a slogan on it, which looked like it's it's not a slogan from now, it's not a graffiti from now, it's part of the building, and I didn't understand what it means. It was in Flemish, and I asked them, they said it says forward. So that building was very significant for the whole history. It was the first socialist cooperation as a model. It was not just socialist model, but it was combining cooperation and socialism together. And that building was owned by, it was this cooperation owned by the people of the city. Everybody had the ownership, and there was these small stores and shops inside this very monumental building. And any kind of income produced from there, it would be shared by the people of the city and so on. So it was a very new, started in 1880s and continued until 1970s. So very significant, very long practical revolution kind of history. And it's still there, it's a culture center now, it's not functioning the same way. So that model in 1970s it failed, but not really failed, it just couldn't function anymore. But it proved itself for a very long time. And I like that they had the slogan, and the company was called, the corporation was called For Art, which is forward. And I wanted to make a reference to that building. Just next to the building, we built this 30 meters helium balloon, looks like a floating rock. And there's a building on top. So temporarily we were trying to change the city's landscape. And the show was for 4 months, and this is inspired from René Magritte's famous painting that you see, this very mysterious castle and the rock floating above ocean, and very romantic painting and quite utopic painting. And I found that kind of, it's not utopia anymore what they have done, that it was this very practical revolution. It was being practiced for a very long time. And we did the piece and it was there and it had immediate reactions, and I was thinking we are in Western Europe, so there wouldn't be so big stories, but then only a week after the balloon was down, and we sent it back to UK to fix the balloon, and we find out there was 6 bullets found inside. Someone shot the balloon. So then the whole story started. We fixed the balloon. It was very expensive, by the way, like helium, and you send it to UK, it comes back, it takes another 2 weeks. And the museum wanted to fix it and put it back. And I wanted to think about it, but they just didn't want to come up with other strategies. They just wanted to fix it and put it back. Spend another 20,000 euros for fixing. And then we would put it up, and a few days after, someone cut the rope and it flew, but there was an emergency handle, so it landed in the city center somewhere. So that was the second attack. And again, the museum sent it to UK. It was like it's becoming this really strange, mysterious story. And they fixed it and they sent it back. Few weeks passed. It was happening all 4 months. And middle of summer, and we put it up again. 2 days after, it was again done. So you spend all this money, put it up, and someone shoot it again. So police was investigating. We still don't know. I asked. They sent me the police report, and they sent me the balloon afterwards. But all this story generated, and the museum basically what they were trying to do with this kind of shows, in collaboration with the municipality, somehow bring art to the public space and engage people. And this work was highly engaged in a different way, not the way I was thinking. I was thinking it's going to be something symbolic, but at the end, it produced some enemies, and we don't know why. They think there's some crazy guy from the neighborhood doing it, shooting it for fun, but same person wouldn't do many times for fun. I think it produced some sort of enemies, but it could be maybe nationalists, maybe whoever, hooligans or whatever. We don't know. It's an unknown story. And every time someone else wanted to show this piece, they wanted to localize and franchise it. They asked in Moscow to put Kremlin castle instead of this building. I said, no, it doesn't make sense. So we can make such work turn it into something like that. And then also when they hear the story, it was shot, they get all scared about all this mysterious story behind. And together with this, I did another piece, which was this one. Next to the museum, they had this amazing wooden, very old velodrome for a cyclist to use once a year only, and it was closed for public. It has been closed other times during the year, so no one have access to this place. It's just next to the museum. Moving from another proposal I made, they said, well, actually we have somewhere very similar we can use, and we can actually do the whole opening there. And I was thinking about another idea, and I used the same slogan, which is forward, again the socialist slogan, and we produced letters. They are at the same time lights, and they were on. We mounted them on each bicycle, and the cyclists came and they did round. It was very quiet and long performance in a way. They were forming the words and making different kind of choreographies. I told them you don't have to make the words, you can just take care of yourself, but they were like doing a lot of things. I show you a little bit of that thing. A little video of that, so you can see how they are moving. Anyway, it was like happening for 3 hours. They were just going on and on and on. Nothing was happening, and people were just staying there. I thought they would leave like 3 minutes after. They were just, because it was really about the atmosphere. Such thing. It's very hard to show from images. So this was also temporary. The other work was supposed to stay for 4 months. We had 2 options: either a hot air balloon that can go around the city maybe 1 or 2 times. But I wanted to keep it there, and any passerby can take pictures, and it's theirs at the same time. But it failed, so I should have just made hot air balloon. Appears only 1 time, and this was only 1 time. Similar. I like this kind of, you can't plan everything. You go do site visits and come up with some ideas, but the work creates its own story, and it can be every time where it's different thing. So this was another commission like that, I was invited to New Zealand, to Christchurch, again a public art biennial exhibition. And I went for site visit, and I had this idea, and it took us 2 years to produce it. But they produced it, and there was a planned scheduled date for the biennial to open. I tell you the very basic idea. It's a merry-go-round, but there is nothing inside except I remove everything and I put 2 bus stops instead. So it's a bus stop, but it's moving constantly 24 hours. So you go wait for bus, like you sit on this, but you turn at the same time. So I wanted to turn that boring time you spend meanwhile waiting for bus into more fun time. And that was the idea. Because I thought Christchurch is this city, looks like you are in Britain, but it's like mirrored city. Some British people arrived there a long time ago and they designed the city. It looks like exactly like Britain, or you feel like you walk inside Oxford University or something. And they don't really need a bus line or tram line. For nostalgic reason, they were reconstructing tram line. So I thought it's very like strange to have only 1 bus line in whole city, and tram line wasn't there. They were remaking. So it was this Disneyland kind of town, Christchurch, but something unexpected happened. You can see here. Then it became a social place for people to meet and spend time. It's not a bus stop anymore. They were just all the time hanging around there, and young people, other people, they would go spend time there. But until we arrived this moment, there was 2010, the biennial schedule. I packed my luggage and I was about to go. I got my visa and flight ticket, and I heard in the news that there was a big earthquake, very big one, and never happened before. So whole city, it was a show supposed to happen in public space, and my work was produced, but it wasn't installed yet. But they lost all their office, everything. To anyone. It was just facades of buildings in this cute city suddenly disappeared, and the public space disappeared. So we were going to make a show in public space, but public space was not there anymore. And they had to reconsider it, and it took many months what to do, and some of them lost their houses and so on. So it was really, we thought, what shall we do? And maybe the works doesn't make sense anymore, the ideas doesn't make sense anymore. And I told them maybe my work is maybe too ironic, we shouldn't maybe do this work. They said this is exactly what we need. We discussed it and we want to have this work because a lot of people leaving the town, going to other towns. So we want to find a way to keep them and make public space a joyful area again. So they were collaborating with construction companies as sponsors, but they were, instead of building the biennial, they were building the city. It took another 6 months to reschedule it, and I packed my luggage, I had my visa again, and I was gonna go 5 days before. Another even bigger earthquake. Exactly 6 months after when we rescheduled everything. Yeah. All these discussions happened after the second earthquake. So I said, that's really, we shouldn't, like, I was really worried about them. They were all fine, but everything changed. And at the end we did it, and people really used it, and I was really happy that, they didn't do one exhibition, they changed everything. It was like every work done different times, some works changed completely. And I donated this piece to the city so they can reinstall anytime they want. But anyways, this is it, and let's go to this one. This was recently last November. I was invited to Liverpool Biennial, and I went there again for site visit, and I was thinking, Liverpool is this shrinking city. It used to be this large city in UK because it's a harbour city and there was a lot of trade going on to Liverpool, and not anymore, everything changed. So people are leaving the town, it's a very small population and it's really shrinking, it's a huge town, huge industry, but these empty buildings and so on, and they have a biennial, and for who is the public and so on. And it's actually the largest biennial in UK, but people come only for the opening. So I was wondering, like, why do they need to have a biennial and for whom? Is it really for people who are in the town?
The largest contemporary festival in the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and well known in Northern Ireland and other realms and territories.
So I decided to announce the biennial not through website or e-flags or this artistic, informative way, like fast way. The people don't go there, but they know there's a biennial happening. They know, everybody knows about it because they use internet, other tools to announce such thing. It's a large event and they talk about themselves very like, this is important, and they try to bring more people. And I decided to do it analog way. So I hired this guy who is dressed up as a postman, and he was traveling from Liverpool to other towns until Manchester, 4 towns, and he would go stop in a square in an empty town and read this press release, biennial's press release in a like a royal language, old English converted version of it in the square. But nobody would be there, maybe some people would be there. So it was this desperate attempt to announce the biennial to the neighbors. Everybody knows internationally, but neighbors, they've never heard of it. So it was kind of this trip around Liverpool.
A venue to include the Canal Building, the Blue Coat,
We are in this little town, nobody is around. It's in front of town hall.
Bethel, the Monroe, Open Eye Gallery, Tate Liverpool, Mitchell Bakery, LJNU Conference Building, Lime Street, the Walker Art Gallery,
Nobody.
Victoria Gallery, and the Museum of London in the cause of the Olympic year. Liverpool Biennial the 7th will explore the most worthy themes of hospitality. Hospitality is a welcome we shall extend to
And the show was about hospitality.
an attitude and code of conduct
In the middle of nowhere, taking
conditions and energies that inspire artists. You, the residents of this city, for any enquiries, please do contact us via these diverse phone numbers on 0207 221
It's the last stop.
500 and
There was few people in Manchester.
151 709 7444 by the director of Liverpool Biennial, herself signed with her own hand.
How long did it take?
2 days. Nobody home. Nobody visited the biennial. At least from me. So this was it. Okay. Some early words. I always had this interest, this performative way of relating public space with the institution, and in the beginning I would just initiate myself. So this very early piece from 2005. When I had some free time, I prepared these cutout papers and I went to a car park in Istanbul. And without permission, I converted 2 people's car into taxi and police car. Only using papers and tape. So it was this very temporary moment, like you leave your work and you try to find your car. Normally it's anyway how to find your car, and you see it's a taxi, you say of course from distance, 500 meters, it worked really well. It looked really like original. real car. And when you come closer, you see how terribly done. So, and it's very easy to remove. So it's not like I'm not going spraying somebody's car and doing some vandalism. It was about this very short moments, first moment basically. That shifts your reality and wherever you are, and you come closer, you find out you can remove it, you can use it like that, whatever you want. So it was a very slapstick. Took 10-15 minutes to make it, and I didn't wait for the reactions. It was not a TV joke, so I can imagine, and you can imagine, if it's your car, how you would react. And something similar to this I did a few years after. In Stockholm, they asked me, the curator, the director of Malmö Konsthall, Jakob, he was a bit bored of just making program for the exhibition space. He said, like, this time let's do something outside of the space, and he come up with an artistic idea. He said, okay, me and all my staff, we will go out for 2 days, we will hitchhike, and we will invite 7 artists to give us ideas and proposals, and we will do whatever they want. So they gave us this open invitation, and basically they said, torture us, whatever you want, we can do it for you. And everybody gave some ideas. I saw some artists gave like huge, heavy sculpture to carry around, red, crazy sculpture. Some other artists did something else. And I asked them, one of them, to dress up as a high-ranked soldier and go out and have 2 flags, Swedish flags, it was in Sweden, car flags, so you can actually put on the car those 2 flags, and go hitchhike, and if anyone stops, you ask for permission to put the flags until the next destination, until where they take you. So they were on the road for 3 days, and this is all I'm working at Malmö Konsthall at that time, and Jakob, the director, he was together with him, like his security guard or something. They were 2, and taking the photos. They asked me, like, what should we do, like, if someone stops and asks us who we are, what are we doing, and I said it doesn't matter anymore. The first moment they see you standing in the corner of the highway, and they have no clue it's a performance, it's a crazy person, it's an art thing or not. So I was more interested with this, exactly the same thing. This very short moment, you're a driver and you have a very short moment to decide. You can just go on and you can take the responsibility or be scared of this soldier, and they stop, and after that you can have nice conversation. They can say this is an art performance or whatever, doesn't matter. And they took these pictures after that moment, if someone stopped. There was many cars stopping there. This is the piece there. It's outside. The Turkish version and English version is somewhere in the street over there. So first I had this as an idea. Someone, there was an art fair. They asked me to do a proposal for the art fair, and I told them I have this idea. Can you shut down your security every day for 1 hour, and we put this sign around the art fair, so if any artwork is stolen, anything, it can happen during that 1 hour. Of course, it was too crazy idea. They thought about it, they took me serious, but at some point they said, we can't do this. And I didn't give up the idea. I said, in what format I can make this happen? And I was asked by another institution to propose some editions, and I said, this could be an edition actually. Like, anyone can take it and put it somewhere, and it functions. So it's about this rumor, no? So you don't really have to shut down the security cameras, which actually they are maybe shut down sometimes. We can just create this speculation. So I made it as edition, and then later one sculpture park in US, in St. Louis, they asked me to buy it like as a sculpture. So this they have all these kind of sculptures around the park. It's a sculpture park, and this is my sculpture. So they bought it as an artwork and put it in the park, one copy, and I said I want three free copies to put around the city. So I just left it same material, but one is sculpture, the others are in the city. So I went around and put them there and left them there in different locations. And I don't know what happened afterwards. And of course this also had a story. Although it's in a sculpture park, some guy went there to take a walk on one Sunday, and he sees this on a tree, and he takes a photo and he posted on a fail.org website. Like they post all these funny things or failures all around. He thought this is some stupid security mistake. Writing 24 hours, someone wrote 23 hours. Such idiot. So it says like photo failure, and 5,000 people likes it, and so no one knows it's my thing.
That's the piece, man.
Huh?
That's the piece.
Yes, so the piece happened finally. I didn't know, I was having dinner with my friends in Amsterdam, Boyan maybe you know, and he told me, Ahmet, I think I saw your piece in this strange website. It was there. I was like, no, I have no idea. Then I went to that website, I searched, and at the end I found it. And I saw a lot of comments. People making so many like ideas and speculating. Nobody knows it's an artwork. So, and I was secretly just following their comments. I didn't say anything. I was just watching and collecting. And at the end, it was a nice archive for me, following what they would say. And and one day, one idiot put a comment there. This is actually an artwork by Ahmet Öğüt, blah blah blah. And after that comment, everybody stops to speculate. Such a clever. I could have done. I mean, anyway, so but for a while, the work created its own story, which I like when it's something also like the police car piece. This one, I mean, it's circulated around not as an artwork, as an image, or as a, you know, it comes from these different strange places, as you know, not as an artwork. So when it can go beyond being artwork and speculated, I think then that moment it can achieve certain things that it's never possible with, you know, defining it as an artwork anyways. How much time? A little bit more. This is another long story. So I always like, I take the hard way. So I was nominated to this one prize instead of just hoping that I will win the prize and put the money in my pocket. I just took the way to criticize the prize. And it was in Ukraine, one of this very rich person who owns a big foundation and he has a lot of money and he's celebrating his money with this prize for artists and so on. So I decided to make a work that could somehow, if it should be about the money itself, and if I win the prize, that money should transform into something else. It shouldn't come to me, it should go somewhere else, and it should produce something else. How can I do that? How can I find a good way of doing this? So I really didn't want to touch his money. But I wanted to, when the money comes, I want to do something with it and transfer it somewhere, so be in between. And to be able to be nominated, you have to produce an artwork. So I said, there's a budget for that, so I said send it to me, and I will go to my hometown, and I will go around to different weddings, and I will do money shower. I will make it $1 bills, and I will do money shower with that money. And they said yes. They gave me some money to make this work. So I went around and distributed this money, but I just didn't give the money away. I wrote a website on each banknotes, which is a website connected to a group of scientists and software developers. They made an open source device that's for paralyzed people to be able to make drawings with their eyes. Very incredible device. It's very cheap. So I put their website on the money. So if you go to the website, there are instructions you can make that device, and that's useful for those people. So it's like open source thing. And I thought this would be perfect collaboration. So I went to 5 different weddings and distributed this marked money. I never did it before. In the beginning I was a bit shy. They don't know who I am, and they think maybe I'm from the groom side or bride side. So they don't know from which family I am. But I go first, join them a little bit, and then I distribute the money, do the money shower, and I continue to another wedding. Second wedding. And this is another wedding. Kids, give me space. I also go to groom and put some $50 on and I say I am in a hurry, so I have to leave. So I have to do it now. And it's like, why don't you stay, join us? And, who is this guy? Nobody knows. And this is the website that you can handwritten. This is some village wedding again. In night. They sometimes have 3 days weddings, so this goes on. There's a normal thing to do. Nobody asks why you are doing it.
So serious.
And this is the last week. I couldn't go more than 5. I was exhausted and shy. Make it more than that. Oh, yeah, I mean, so now if you explain what is this device at the end. So it's very simple, just cheap glasses, some cameras taken out from some PlayStation, and these lights. At that time it was costing $50, the new version costs only $20 to make.
Working closely with Tim, a group of artists, producers, and programmers created the first ever open source device for paralyzed people to be able to communicate again.
So I didn't know these guys at that time. It was a proposal, and I wrote here end of the work that if I win the prize, I will donate it to this foundation, these guys in LA. And there was a main prize and some special prize. Main prize was $100,000 and special prize was some $20,000. And I went to Kiev and there was this ceremony. I have this second part as well now in Venice in the group show. So December they announced the winners and the jury had very hard time what to decide. But they decided to give me one of the special prizes, not the main prize. So at least I won something. I won like $8,000, and I gave it to these guys. I went to visit them and I donated to the foundation. So it was really nice to finally, the work was complete. From those weddings to Los Angeles, I finally met them and they were very surprised why I'm doing this. And so it was the second part of the project. This was the first installation. Second part of the project. What was that? So if they didn't give the prize or whatever, the work, I had no idea how it would end up. And this somehow started its own story. Like the other works, I had some fixed idea and it went completely different way, which became part of the work. But this already had this idea, like it can be done maybe or not. Let's try it. Let's give it a try. And explosivity. Finish?
No, you have time.
Last. In 2009, I was co-representing Turkey in Venice and thinking about what could be done in that format, like every. And of course, as usual, I was thinking critically about that, and I thought this would be the work could be shown there. Maybe nothing else really. I didn't have another idea. So this work is a 3D archive of buildings. There are semi-anonymous buildings. There is one building from Prishtina, which is a post office, which was bombed 1999. If you see it, I will show you here. You might see it soon. Everybody. It's next to this is Sarajevo. You can know the library. This is from India hotel in 2008 attack, and where is it? Prishtina. I think this was it. Yeah, post office. Yeah. You helped me to find the images because the idea was to after 1990s to make a collection of buildings that are all attacked, bombed, or they were locations of all these traumatic incidents, locally very traumatic, and internationally wouldn't be known. Maybe people would know the incident, but they wouldn't recognize the building. So they are kind of semi-anonymous, locally quite known, or people could recognize them, but internationally you cannot recognize them. When you look at them, you don't know what they are. This is telecommunication from a building from Baghdad. This is a pub from Indonesia. In the back, the water tower from Vukovar, Croatia, and the hospital, and the Hotel Europa from Belfast, which was attacked 33 times since 70s until 94. And this is the Sarajevo Library, which was bombed. It's a club from Colombia, Bogota, and this is a HSBC bank building from Istanbul, Hotel Madomak from Sivas, Afghan wedding house, and so on. So all these buildings. Beslan High School from Odessa in Russia. So this, I was asking friends who are from those countries and to try to pick the right buildings in that kind of category. So not so famous, not so locally could be recognized as like the architecture of the building. Because this whole thing is, when you look at them, they are maybe more known after the attack, so as ruins. You don't see their complete, like how they used to look like before the incident. They were just ordinary buildings, semi-public buildings. One is a hotel, one is a bank, school, this kind of TV building, and so on. So library, they were very ordinary buildings until the attacks happened. And so it's just a collection of these buildings. Really depends where you're from. You can be really connected, you can be very distant. I was not so close to any of those buildings when the incidents happened. So I am maybe more distant than many other people they saw the installation. So they could get emotional or very, very strongly connected. I met some people who used to work in one of those buildings, and you know, they have stories and so on. So it was about this very personal memory. So that's why I started from 1990s. If I go more back in time, it's history somehow written by someone. We are not a witness. So this is kind of recent history. Is kind of has a lot to do with personal memory as well, and depends. And Venice was that kind of place. Any kind of person comes from anywhere. So it's not one kind of public. It's really mixed. So it made sense to show this piece of exposed. And there is another part which is a story. It inspired from Calvino. That's maybe you can read it later. This was a serious work I made. But I turned it later in, I add a little humor when I showed the piece in Munich. I lowered the ceiling, something like this, 150. So, and people had to come from stairs, so they hit their heads, it's a bit painful, and they had to walk around like this to see the exposed city. So it was a bit painful, but somehow they enjoyed it. I made it a bit painful for people, but they enjoyed it more. And they kind of find it funny, but it wasn't really funny, so, but this was a very serious work. I thought in that context it should be that way. And this is another very minimal piece for Berlin Biennial in 2008. In Kunstwerke, they gave me the space that I filled the floor with asphalt, nothing else in the space. So you can see in the pictures, but it's very hard to understand the work only from pictures. Asphalt is very organic material. It has smell and it's sticky, especially when you put it inside, when you walk, it really stays with you. It's very organic and you can feel it. In this complete huge space in the biennial, the upstairs there was a lot of artworks. It's very tiring. You just see a lot of things and you really get tired. And you come down here, and it was basically for people to experience the atmosphere of it, but also have a break from all this overloaded information that comes from all the other works. And but it was about also bringing public space and institutional space, so institutional critique, but the ideological use of asphalt by governments in developing countries. They use asphalt somehow to prove their existence on territory. And so people are happy finally they have asphalt, but let's also bring the control. This is the road they have to follow. And I know a fun story from Finland that one guy had a sauna and he wanted to make a road to go easily to his sauna, but later that road became highway. So he couldn't use his sauna. Anyway, this other.
What is the different experience?
Maybe, yeah. Huh?
The experience between Berlin and Istanbul Biennale?
Yes, there was a difference between. I did also in Istanbul in a smaller space. It was in the just ground floor and the doors were open. So it basically became part of the street in Istanbul. So it was really, someone did graffiti on it. The children from the street, they start coming and running inside the institution. So it was like really extending the public space towards the interior. And in Berlin it was more art looking somehow. It was a bit different. Also the way it was done in Istanbul, we did in 3 hours. They came for free, and we found some guy, sent us 2 tracks, and They just made it on the way. And in Berlin, for months, we had to work on it, and they had to plan everything, and it was really expensive. Really
How much?
expensive. Huh?
How much was the production?
I mean, it was no cost in Istanbul, 30,000 to 40,000 euros in Berlin. It was, I think. Okay. Over, I think. Thank you.
Shall we take some questions if there are
Turn
any?
on the lights and if you have any questions.
About the exploded city, how did you choose the buildings?
How did I choose the buildings? It's very up. It was up to that moment. I was traveling in Eastern Europe a bit, so that made it easier to ask friends and also visit some of the sites. But I wasn't able to. I mean, you can do that research for a very long time. But it doesn't really about the particular buildings. It's really about this is my selection, and if you do it, you can do maybe completely different selection. So I had that network. I can have called my friend in Beirut, go and take a picture of the building, and ask my friend in Croatia, and so on. So I had like very short time to make research and start the production. And it ended end of 2008. So whatever happened in the world until 2008, it was part of the work. What happened in 2009, it's not part of the work. And I can continue adding more buildings, unfortunately, because all the time things happen like that. But it's not about that. So the selection is really personal in a way, but also collective. It could be, you know, we can imagine it's a different city, different buildings.
But it's supposed to be like a traumatic connection with the place or that building or some sort of like terrorist attacks.
Yeah, but it's never. Some people they always kept describing it. It's collection of buildings of terrorist attacks.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not terrorist attacks. It's mixed. There's state terrorism, all these local conflicts, civil wars, you know, all these religious conflicts, all different kind of type of reasons and local reasons. So you cannot just name them one particular reason, but it is they all have that traumatic impact on people who happen to be there, probably be from that city. So I wasn't interested in these already media manipulated buildings like the Twin Towers. All Americans ask me why you don't have Twin Towers. If I have Twin Towers there, I can put anything else there. It's already over manipulated and it has nothing to do with your personal memory, although you might remember where were you at that moment, but it's over manipulated. So I picked another building which was the second biggest attack by that time, which was 1995 Oklahoma Federal Building attack, which is known internationally but not as much as Twin Towers, and you wouldn't recognize the building from Oklahoma. So I picked that one and they were all okay. Ask about Twin Towers. And then there was a show last summer in Chicago where it was about skyscrapers and a lot of works about Twin Towers. I was in a room surrounded by all this work about Twin Towers, and this work was in the middle. I was like, okay, this was eventually gonna happen anyway.
About the floating balloon, the floating stones, you said that the museum used, they changed it, I mean they fixed it like 3 times. What do you think, is it the same work, you know, as it was first, or can the work be changed? Can it be changed after it's presented?
It should be. I mean, I have some ideas, but every work should create its own life. I mean, if there is no reaction, then there was not enough reason to produce it. No one gives any kind of reaction, not positive, negative, anything. Then actually there is no reason to make that work, I think. And I'm not after provocation, trying to create negative reactions, or it has to be positive reactions. But I like unexpected reactions. It's better if I don't predict what kind of story it will produce. And then I think, yes, okay, I had maybe different idea, but it's good I made this at least. So I don't see it as a failure in that way. And we have to be creative, you know, it's not about spending more. Museum people, they were really nice, they were fixing it all the time, spending all their money. But they could have taken more time, sit down with me, and we could have come up with a creative solution for them, instead of putting it in exactly the same place. I was trying to tell them, but you know, I think it's also important. What should be the next step if something like that happens?
I mean, would the concept be the same if you keep the work with the bullets on it? You know, after they
No, I mean
shot
the concept is not anymore about the concept of the work. I mean, the building is there, nobody is attacking the original building. But it's completely emptied from its context. All the socialist past is not there. Certain generation didn't witness. They think it's a nice building, it's a culture, museum, theater space. You can go have nice coffee and drinks there. So it's very present, very visible, and slogan is there. Nobody sees it anymore. So the reason I made the piece, somehow make it more visible, the existing building, and it made it more visible. So then they had to rethink about what kind of public space we had. We are a museum. Are we really linked to people here living in this town? What kind of people does this kind of thing? So they had to rethink about public space, and the whole idea about making a show like that. It's this, really you have to understand what's actually happening more than what is being constructed.
Any idea what happened to the work from Christchurch?
It's there now, it's fine. No more earthquakes there.
Because the city is undergoing quite a lot of changes when it comes to their construction.
It's part of that foundation that's actually owned by the construction companies. And I think they are taking care of it somehow. They will install it again when it's needed. I haven't been back there. I don't know how it's there now. Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again. There are drinks outside.